Welcome back, writers, to my Road to Publish series. A series where I look at all the ups and downs on my road to being published. This is an opportunity to see what I'm learning and how the journey's going. Hopefully giving you a better insight into getting published yourself. This is episode 2, so let's get into it. So first up, my work in progress, the thing that I'm hopefully going to have published. It is a fantasy, first and foremost, with a steampunk aesthetic. It's about a kidnapped princess who discovers that her father is going to destroy the world. She essentially has to learn to see beyond her own wants and desires, selfish leaders and all that. That's the heart of the story. It does have multiple POVs, and I'll share more of those as the weeks go on. Last time I spoke, I was on chapter 6, and I'm still writing chapter 6. When I say writing, this is one of many drafts that I've done. This has been a project that's been going on for a while. This is a chapter involving Hallie, who's the main character, involving her father, and it's in second person perspective. So instead of I, there's lots of yous. More and more that I write with that voice and spend time with that voice, it feels better, and it's coming really quite simply and quite easily. I am finding that I don't want to move away from it, but I've decided to, when I say move away from it, I don't want to go and write the other characters. But one of the earlier drafts, I did write them, the perspectives all together. So I wrote Hallie's perspective, her father's perspective, and other characters all at once. But now I'm doing it in how they will appear as chapters in the story. So once this chapter is done and we move on to chapter 7, I'll be with a different character. But I don't want to be. I'm really enjoying writing with Malachi and just being this kind of bitchy second person, which I'm really enjoying. That being said, things are moving quite slowly because the last time in episode 1, I was on chapter 6 and lo and behold, I'm still on chapter 6. Though I'm enjoying it, I have been struggling to get into that deep work. I've been doing 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, and it just doesn't feel like it's long enough to get into that deep work where you sit down, you spend an hour or two. I've not been getting into that over the last couple of weeks, which has been quite frustrating. But that's not a good enough excuse. I really want to do this. I want to get this finished. So I've set up a new schedule that, touch wood, will help me have longer writing sessions and really get into that deep work. I think last time I spoke, I was trying to get 2 hours a day in. Something a bit different with my schedule at the moment, which I'll share. Hopefully, if it goes well, I'll share a bit more later. The goal is between 7 to 10 hours a week, but not necessarily rigid 2 hours every single day. I'm also trying to fit in all the other things that I'm doing, all the social media and all the other writing practice. I'm trying to all fit it in, but understanding that reading and writing are the most important parts of the journey. Another part of my work in progress since you last saw me is I shared the previous chapter 5 with a few of my writing colleagues that were on the Faber course with me. I did Faber Writes a Novel course a few years ago, 2023 now, one of the biggest creative writing courses in the UK, and I got onto that in 2023. I'm going to do more on that later because I do think it's a really good course that writers, if they can, they should try and get onto. I shared that previous chapter with some of my peers that were on the course, and they had really good positive things to say about the previous chapter, which is always nice to hear because that's the thing with writing, isn't it? It's such a, you write something and you think it's good, or not. But when someone else says it, there is a sort of magic that comes with that. You feel validated, which I love. Yeah, the previous chapter, really, really good positive response from my friends, from my peers. Now, practice. It's a new month, and as I've mentioned before, every month I look at a author. I study an author as part of my practice because practice is so important. I don't just write my novel, I'm also practicing, sharpening my skills, learning more all the time, all part of the journey. Last month I looked at James Baldwin, the writer who I just adore. One thing that I picked up from studying a few of his essays, his use of interjection, I'll say the word, his use of interjections and his use of parentheses, just excellent, just creates so much color. And he was never safe with his writing. It never read dull. It was never read like an instruction manual. And it was his kind of sentence structure, his clause use. With James Baldwin, it's almost like he's having a conversation with himself, and he does that through his parentheses, through his clause variety. He does that way. So it's almost like two people are involved in a conversation. It's really, really great stuff. And that's something that I've tried to pick up on and use in the last month. This month, I am switching over to studying Patrick Rothfuss, the fantasy author of Name of the Wind. So I'm going to be studying his books and looking at the kind of structures, looking at his sentences, looking at his clauses, looking at what makes him magic. I do think he's one of those writers that has a very smooth and colourful touch to his writing. And I look forward to getting involved and just sharing what I learned from him. Also, as part of my practice, I write essays because I don't just want to write my novels. So I do write other things. I study authors and I write other things. And one thing I've been doing is writing essays. And I wrote a short piece on a book that I read last month by Faiza Shaheen, called Know Your Place, Know Your Role, Know Your Place. I had a lot of fun writing that, and I actually used some of those elements that I mentioned earlier about James Baldwin, having a conversation with yourself. Those elements that he used, I tried to incorporate them in the piece, which by the time this is uploaded will be on Substack. So please have a look at that. It's going to be in the description. So follow my Substack there, and you can see my efforts. Really tried to capture that freedom of voice that James Baldwin was famous for. And the last bit of my practice over the last couple of weeks has been one of my writing groups. I have 3 writing groups, but one of them I mentioned in the previous video, a group called Sad Man Tapas Club. What a name. It's a group of 10, 15 of us. It's not every week that 10 or 15 come, but if there was a maximum week, there'd be 15 of us. But we get a good number every week, about between 5 to 10, usually about 8, 9. We share about 2,000 words. 2 people share 2,000 words. And it was really good. I love, the last couple of sessions have been really good. I do love just seeing other people's work. I think it's one of the best things you can do as a writer is seeing as much work as you can and just seeing how other people do it. I liken it to a puzzle. I think sometimes with writing, it's like a puzzle or like a maze, and you're here and you're trying to get out of it. And it's really interesting to see how other people get out of it. So they'll be in a situation and I look at it like, oh, look how they've got out of that situation. Look at the language they've used. Look what they've not described. Look what they have described to get through the scene. So I really do love looking at other people's writing and seeing that's the idea. Look how they've presented the idea. Look how they've moved through the story. And I think with short stories, especially, you get that kind of completeness, which I do really like. You get the beginning, you get the middle, you get the end. And that's what we focus on at Sad Man Tapas Club. I cannot advise anyone enough. Anyone watching, do try and get yourself into a writing group if you can. Last section is the bits and bobs section. And this time it's 2 films that I've seen. The first film I've watched was Devil Wears Prada, the first one. I know I'm late to the party. I have seen it over the years in bits and pieces, but I watched it fully a weekend ago. And with my writer hat on, that's something that I can't shift now. I always watch these things to the annoyance of friends and family. My takeaway from that film, thoroughly enjoyed it, but we always forget that simple works. And people seem to think that simple is bad and simple is simplistic, and that's wrong. And you want these kind of complex, complicated stories and whatnot. I disagree. I think with Devil Wears Prada, what you've got there, you've got the Anne Hathaway character, and her wants are so clear, and the barriers to her wants are so clear. That's what drives the story. It's such a simple story. You've got the lovely aesthetic, you've got the superb actors, you've got the eye into the fashion world, which is interesting. But at the heart of it, it's the wants driving the characters, and it's the barriers creating tension. So you watch it and you keep watching to see how her journey will go. And what the story does, which all good stories do, it's not superficial. So everything that's happening, all the events that take place, all the barriers, all the pitfalls, all the troubles that take place, they have an internal impact. And that's what the story is. It's about Anne Hathaway's character, Andy, and her internal journey going from here to here. And that's why the story works, because that journey is clear. It's easy to follow. It's easy to understand, and we can relate to it. At the heart of stories, at the heart of characters' journeys, there are things that we can relate to. That's what we understand. We've never worked as an intern at a prestigious fashion magazine, but we have understood the challenges. We've come across challenges ourselves. We've worked with bosses that are difficult or people who are difficult. And we've wanted something. We've wanted to improve and be better and overcome struggles. So we understand what Andy's going through. That's why it works. And the second film that I saw just 2 nights ago was Project Hail Mary. Originally Andy Weir book that was turned into a film. I loved the book when I read it in just around COVID time. I read it, or just after COVID. Loved the book. It was one of those, I devoured it really quickly. And the film, loved it. Really feel good. Again, really simple. He's good at that. I think it's another one where you get this, you think it's, or not think, it is sci-fi, but he never forgets the human element. Yes, you get the aesthetic, it's in space, it's about saving the world and whatnot, but he never forget the human center of his stories. It's about Grace, played by your man. It's not Ryan Reynolds. I can't remember his name. I'm going to put it on the screen. It's your man from Notebook. It's your man from Ryan Gosling. We got there. But your man Ryan Gosling and his eternal journey to becoming more, and not becoming more is like that. It's he goes on a journey through that. Yes, he goes on the physical journey, but he goes on that internal journey, and it's all about him and going on that journey and being helped along the way. And it's the character Rocky that he comes across, the alien. I'm not going to give too much away. No spoilers, but it helps him learn that. And there's actually similarities with my work in progress that I've mentioned. And it's that learning to think about others. You've got the Ryan Gosling character who is selfish at the start, and by the end of it, across the story, he has to learn to not be selfish anymore. And that's similar to my main character, Hallie, in the story that I'm writing. As I've said, the aesthetic is there, the visuals are there, but the story works again because of its heart. It is driven, its propulsion is Grace, Ryan Gosling's character, going on an internal journey, learning about himself and changing. Good stories are simple. And that's what makes them so difficult to write, especially. We as writers forget what they're really about. Change and transformation. Right, writers, thank you very much. That's been episode 2. As always, comments, like, share, all the good stuff. Really helpful for the channel and getting it moving in the right direction. Plus, I'm always happy to chat in the comments and see what your thoughts are. I'll never turn down a Project Hail Mary conversation. But anyway, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.